Welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Johnny Wheels. Oh my God, Johnny. I saw you and the Swamp Donkeys live on stage at that place out in Wilhelmina.
Oh, at the Goat Barn?
At the Goat Barn.
Oh, okay.
My goodness, what a band you have. And what an amazing vocal you have. I mean, I love the opportunity to talk to you because the musicality that comes out of you on stage is just something that you don't normally see.
Oh, that's very cool. Thank you.
It's so awesome.
Thanks.
Like,
Yeah.
how did you get into music?
Well, my dad was a musician who passed away when I was 6 years old, and he had like aspirations of being a rock star or whatever. So when he passed, it was like keeping in touch with him through music was the only real connection that I ever felt. There was no go outside and look at the sky or whatever. It was play music because that's what my dad wanted to do. So and he taught me as a kid. Most kids get instruments and they can just make noise or bang on them or whatever, and not my dad. It was, if you're going to pick this up, I'm going to show you how to do it. And then there come a time that I can remember when I was maybe 5-6 years old that his band was practicing, but they didn't have a bass player. And my dad played bass, but he could also play guitar. And so he just sat me down on the bass and taught me how to just like pluck an open E string for like 5 minutes. But it was timing and rhythm that he taught me. And it was like, no, stop, do it again. It goes like this. And they had to get it right because they were practicing. So that's kind of where all that comes from. My grandpa was a barbershop quartet singer in Southern California for a pretty large barbershop.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I didn't find that out until I was maybe 13 years old that my grandpa actually had performed like in front of large amounts of people with this barbershop quartet. And he was going through a bout with lung cancer. And that's his barbershop buddies came over and they all sat down, and I was just fascinated. And so they showed me how to actually sing and like put me in a category, I guess, of a tenor or wherever I was supposed to be at the time. But those kind of just little things throughout my life is.
Do you remember the time when you realized that you could really sing?
I guess I've always known how to sing.
Yeah.
I think I just now consider myself a decent singer.
Okay.
I know I'm a good musician.
Right.
I know my band is incredible musicians.
Yes.
But as far as a vocalist it's tough. No, I'm just learning to accept that I can do a lot with my voice.
And I would imagine all of those years in music and all of that background and fundamental has helped you with the singing aspect as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all timing and enunciation and convection of feeling. So that was, once again, my dad. He conveyed feeling and could get his what he wanted across very well. So I had an extremely good teacher at a really young age. But nothing was ever formal. Like I tried to join music school when I was 10, 11. I had my dad's bass. Yeah, I'm going to be a bass player in the school band. And then you figure out, well, it's not like playing Kiss and Van Halen. It's playing, marching songs and stuff like that. And that just wasn't, I didn't want to read a book and regurgitate what I read. I wanted to just play what I felt.
Yeah, because I think that's an important piece of music, right? Because if you're a participant in musical whatever and you don't have that connection to the music, the audience knows. Like they can tell.
I think so.
I think so too.
And the only reason that I want to go play music in front of people is to make people feel something.
Yeah.
I want to take them away from their crap that they're checking out every day or whatever and give them an hour and a half of none of that.
I love that.
Yeah. So I as far as saying, I mean, I won an award for being a vocalist, and that kind of was humble. It was very humbling because there's a lot of really good singers on that list that I consider to be like class A singers, and here I get nominated and chosen above them by my peers. So that's very cool.
But I want you to understand from my perspective, that's well deserved, man.
Thank you very much.
Like, I know too many bands out there that have like vocalists that are trying really hard that can't hit the notes that some people can. And it's a combination of practice and talent. And you can't get there.
You got to stay away from what you can't do.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane.
And was that like a hard thing for you to sort of, because I struggle with that all the time. Like, what's your range and all that vocal stuff?
No, so for me, I grew up singing, like trying to sing like Rob Halford and
Okay.
And then come the 90s and I want to sing like Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. And then come 2000s where there's like Creed and I have like the lower register. So I was just like, I would always practice mimicking other people's voices. And that helped me figure out what I could do and how I could stretch my voice. And so I'll go through points where I only want to sing really low. So I'll force myself to sing high, and it'll like get me kind of stuck in a higher register for a while.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's fun to do that because your range is only so big. Not everybody's a Mariah Carey or an Axl Rose and can do everything, but I try as hard as I can. I mean, I definitely don't want to go to something and be like, no, I can't sing that.
Yeah. And I guess I didn't understand that there was a way you could get stuck in a higher register.
It feels like it to me. I mean, I feel like I have to always stretch and keep my muscles in shape, I guess, is kind of how I look at it.
Do you have like a thing you do to sort of keep your muscles in check, or
sing?
Just sing?
Yeah. Right? I'm a little embarrassed to say I don't practice, or I mean, we've had a really hard time getting like consistent practice as a band because we don't have a drummer currently. Okay. But for us a lot, it's just go play. Yeah. No warm up, no time to warm up. Being in my situation, it's hard for me to show up to a gig 4 hours early. Yeah. Because I got so much crap going on that I'm always pushing it. So it's like, basically give me something to drink, take me on stage, and I'll slowly start doing what I can do, or I'll just go for it. So what happens if you go to like a stage or something like that and there's not an accessible entrance? I have a really good band. I have incredible bandmates that there's no place that we've ever wanted to play that they said we can't get you to. That's awesome. Yeah, we've been up. How many stairs did we go up that one? Like 22 stairs. Wow. In a building to play, and fire marshals come in there, they're gonna shut it down because here's a guy in a wheelchair with there's no way to get me out if there's a fire. But it's all about playing for us. Like, it's all about music. Yeah. And the experiences with people that look at us and go, there's no way you're going to get them up there. So, okay, watch. I love proving people wrong. Yeah. I love that. Like, that's one of the things that, like you hear that all the time, like autistic people can't do this, autistic people can't do that. Bull crap. We can. It takes a lot of work. And sometimes it takes a lot more effort than other people, but don't tell me what I can and can't do. Aren't some of the like smartest people in the world highly autistic? Yeah. I mean, savants are highly autistic, and there's a savant in every category for everything. I've always paid attention to just things like that. So when I was hurt, I was 12. And my first idea was, well, get me in a wheelchair like this so I can go out and just start doing. I mean, it was never, there wasn't too much, oh, I feel sorry or what's going on. It was like, I'm still a kid. I want to live life. Like, let's go do something. Yeah. And I've always looked at other people with disabilities the same way. Like, well, I can't do it. Well, why can't you? Because somebody told you can't, or because you told yourself that you can't. Which, I mean, I do that still. I don't know if I can do that, but 100%. And at the same time, though, like from an autistic person's perspective, right? The general default is you tell us we can't. Like the default is you will never live on your own. Mm-hmm. The default is you will never this, you will never that. And so a lot of my time when I talk to people who are also on the spectrum, it's a lot of the time trying to break that cycle and say, like, because I'm probably going to be the first person that said, no, you can. Like, don't tell yourself you're never going to live alone, because you know what happens? You'll never live alone. Like, if you don't change your perspective and go, like, that's such a good philosophy to have. And not a lot of people have that. It's hard. Right? A lot of people just give up. Yeah. But you're right. It's hard. But I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, it's worth the effort. I think so.
Yeah.
It just depends on you and your level of motivation, to be honest. Is
Yeah.
I mean, what I do is definitely hard on my body and probably not good for my body, but that's not that's not the goal. It's
Yeah.
to achieve, accomplish, and overcome something. So
I really appreciate that. And so, what do you mind talking about what happened?
when I was 12, I decided that I was gonna go swimming with my dad passes away in 1990.
Mhm.
We moved from Beaverton down to California, spend a year in California. My mom has a boyfriend at this time, and she wants to bring all her family back to Oregon. And so we move in with some very close family friends that we called aunt and uncle, and they had 4 kids, and there was six kids and 4 adults living in a 3-bedroom home.
Oh, that's a lot of people.
Um, so my parents wanted to go buy a truck. This is later. We spend this time here, and then we get our own place.
Yeah.
And my parents want to go buy a new car, and I begged to go to my Aunt Sharon's house where we live so I don't have to go to town and spend all day in town. It's like it's July 30th, so it's very hot.
Yeah.
And then we talk Aunt Sharon into letting us go swimming, and of course I'm 12,
Yeah.
so I'm a I'm really a kid, and I'm a prankster, and I decided to go across the river and jump in where I was going to do a perfect dive because I thought I could go straight up, come back down, no splash, and do this big show off thing. It was only 3 feet deep where I jumped in, and I didn't know. So I literally went up, came straight down, arms out, arms back, hit my head, and crushed my spinal cord in 3 places. And those kids saved my life. Thank
Yeah.
God. We had watched Rescue 911 every single day of our lives that we lived with them. So for like 6 months, we'd Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock in the evening, sit down and have dinner. And as families watch Rescue 911, and that's what saved my life that day.
And so, like, you knew from right off the bat, like it was a life changing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't realize it would be probably a lifelong lasting injury. But I knew I was hurt. And I opened my eyes and looking at the bottom of the river, and I'm face down floating, and I can't breathe. And I go into, semi panic mode of what can I do to breathe? Started just like thrashing my head back as fast as I could, because that was the only thing I could move. And then I feel a hand grab my head and pull me out of the water and say, "Get up, you idiot," and put me back down. And then the hand grabbed me instantly and was like, pulled me up enough that I could breathe. They could see my face, and, "Oh my God, you're really hurt," and ran and called 911. And Rescue 911 had taught us that you don't move anybody because they could have a serious neck injury.
Yeah.
If somebody's in the water, you don't try to get them out, but you get them to where they can breathe and are safe. So they knew to keep me in the water, to not try to turn me over, to not try to move me because I could have a serious neck injury. They called 911, and they came and eventually got me out of the river into a helicopter and life flighted me to the hospital.
So, what was high school like?
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're the only one that's like been in the school in a wheelchair
Yeah.
for like years, you can get away with anything. Literally anything. As long as you don't abuse it too much. But it was also a trip and very hard. I had super good friends. We were in a class of like 60 people when I got hurt, so everybody knew each other, and we had been going to school together since like 4th grade. Um, it was cool. I had a very cool ceramic teacher that when I was in 8th grade going to become a freshman, he came down and to the school and was like, "I don't know what you can do, but I want you in my class. Like, I would love to work with you." And so we did a lot of pottery when I was in high school with him. He did things like got me in a wheelchair accessible wheel through a grant, the Oregon Lottery grant. He fought for that, and he did all
That's
that for
awesome.
me. It wasn't a lot of music in school. I tried to start some bands when I was 15, 16, 17, but there wasn't a whole lot of, I wanted to be a serious musician. Like, that's all I've ever wanted was serious. And they're like, "Well, let's just get together and kind of hang out and play." And we'll just kind of create. And I was like, no, let's like put something together and start playing. I had a kid that was in a band that I knew named Jake Blair, who was going out playing in front of people. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to go out and play in front of people. I don't want to just play in my garage and hang out. So I tried to do that, but ceramics took over my whole entire high school life, and I did a lot of pottery.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Everybody was really cool. Everybody helped me out. I went through my normal things of, talking crap to other people and almost getting in fights or whatever. I was a very, very normal teenager as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I had a really cool friend that would take me anywhere, who could carry me anywhere. He could carry me for a mile on his shoulder. He could lift me in and out of roller coasters. Like, we did all kinds of crazy stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
And then you get done with high school. How many years until you start the Johnny Wheels and the Swamp Donkeys? Or have you been in other bands? I guess we should start with that beforehand.
About 22 or 20 to 23, I started going down to Lincoln City and had met some older musicians that were willing to let me play with them. And so I would go down to like the jams at the bars as I was 21 and play. And then I kind of worked my way into the band that was there, because it was a band that would host the jams, and then people would come in and just play. Well, I'd show up every week and hey, I want to play. Hey, I want to play. And then pretty soon well, I'm the only harmonica player, and I'm really like the only other singer. So they're like, and the guy that sang and played guitar, he was a good singer, but his voice was starting to kind of give out on him from drinking and smoking too many cigarettes. And so all of a sudden it was like, well, here, you sing. And I just ran with that. I was like, sure, I'll sing anything, whatever you guys want to play.
That's awesome.
And then I joined a band that Taylor was in, our bass player. He was in, and it was extremely unsatisfying musically. But Taylor and I and a couple other guys in the band we really liked each other, and so we would chat and talk, and him and I would play acoustic stuff, and we started doing in the middle of that band's breaks, Taylor, pick up the acoustic guitar. Let's just sit up here and play. Like, we don't really drink that much, and we ain't got nothing else to do. And people like it better when there's music going the whole time, that way the bar doesn't empty or whatnot. And we started doing that acoustically and just calling ourselves random things, being funny. And Taylor spouted out Swamp Donkeys one night, and that became our acoustic thing. And I knew a really good guitar player from around Sheridan that I had played with in a couple other bands that I was trying to start. So I called him and called his buddy, a drummer, and pretty soon it was Taylor, Patrick, Rafe, and I, and we were like playing in between breaks. Or I talked the band leader of the band at the time. I talked him into half in the shows with us. So it was this band, me and Taylor in this band, and then me and Taylor in this other band. We were just playing all night long. But it was awesome. 2 different bands, so that way we could get our feelings out in this other band and then play the music that we had to play with the other guys.
So you had your own creative outlet, and then at the end of that, you could be more like mainstream, what everybody kind of wanted to hear, kind of thing.
My goal was to this is hard for me to say. My idea the whole entire time was I knew what was better.
Yeah.
I knew what sounded better. I knew what people liked more. And it was really kind of hard and unfair because the other guys just didn't, and they couldn't. And so then as we're playing more, people are liking us more, and we're putting more into this where we can be free and we can have what we want. And pretty soon I left the band. There was a pretty bad breakup of that band when it came to me and the rest of them.
Okay.
And about 6 months later or something, Taylor left that band, and we were just full on, this is our band. This is what we're going to do.
How'd you connect with Brandon Logan?
I watched him for years.
I love that. I love that. So you're scouting him out. You're like, ooh, if the opportunity ever presented itself.
I was never afraid to find good musicians and go play with them.
Yeah.
And so Brandon had a band called Blue Evolution at the time, and I knew Bill, his bass player. So I met Brandon and Michael and they had a drummer, Derek Jones, and then another drummer, Doug Noyle. So I met all of them, and I just started hanging out with them. And hey, when my band's not playing, can I come and sit in with you guys? And and pretty soon Bill was like, you guys are all young, and I'm an old. He was maybe 30 years older than us, or
Okay.
20 years older than us, and he was just an incredible bass player, incredible singer, incredible musician. Turned out even a more incredible human being, because he was like, take these guys and go play. He could see that we had like good chemistry between Michael, Brandon, myself, and Taylor. And it was always weird because we wanted to play gigs. Well, there's Bill, who's a really good bass player,
Yeah.
and then there's Taylor, who's a really good bass player. And so it was always, well, do I call Bill? Do I call Taylor? I don't want to leave Taylor out. Don't want to leave Bill out. Don't want to steal Bill's band. And eventually Bill was just like, you guys go play. You guys take Taylor and go play. And then we call him whenever we could. And sometimes we'd put Taylor on guitar just so we could play with Bill, But yeah, I watched Brandon. I watched Brandon go through Stillwater Vibes. I watched him go through Blue Evolution. I watched him with Gabe Cox. I watched them when they did the journey to Memphis and all that stuff. And when it became time for us to be in a band, I was like, yeah, I really like playing with him a lot.
And the consummate professionals, right? That blues musicians I am finding are compared to other sort of genres. It's my experience, and I don't know if you've shared this experience or not, but it's my experience that people who sing or participate or play the blues, they're not as hierarchical, and they like want to play with everybody, or given the opportunity, let's just come and jam and create music together, as opposed to let's come together and make the perfect album or the perfect this. It just seems to me with blues, it's just more of a opening, like everybody, if you could play, come on the stage and play with me.
Yeah, it might be more. Oh crap! I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
It's my medicine. It might be more forgiving, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of jam bands are blues based, and jam bands are pretty free, which is what I always liked to be part of. Was a jammy, free feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up watching guys that staged shows all their lives, and I always wanted the perfect mix between this is how you put on a show and this is how you just go play what's in front of you and what you feel. Sometimes there's a lot of people in front of us and it's super fun to interact with them, and sometimes there's a few people in front of us that don't care that we're there and I want to play with my band. But I guess I never thought about that because I mean, jazz musicians are always the guys that are like nailing the stuff, in my opinion, that have to, this is it, this is how it goes.
It has to follow this subscribed pattern.
Which is also not true, though, because jazz is there's a huge, broad spectrum of what goes on in jazz as well. So
100%. And my love of blues and my love of jazz stems from the difference in the counts, the difference in the measures, and how unpredictable the musicality of it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the freedom within a song under blues to just, I'm going to try a different solo today, or I'm going to try a different drum beat today, or I'm going to try this today. Just see what happens.
Yeah. I never thought of myself as playing Sweet Home Alabama exactly the way it goes every night.
Yeah.
Those guys are really good that can do that.
Yeah.
Extremely good, but that's just never been me.
Yeah.
Which is hard because I want to write songs and I want to play my own songs, but, and people want to hear those songs and they want to hear them the way that they're played. But
yeah,
I've always thought, well, if you want to hear them a certain way, put on a CD and listen to them, because maybe I want to play them a different way some night or something.
I'm glad you brought that up. Right. So one of the things for me is I always felt different about live music versus an album. And what I mean by that is when I take an album, I figure there is so much work and energy into an album in the order of the songs, how it's created, how it's so I almost feel like I owe it to the musician to listen to the album from start to finish.
Okay.
Because that's, it's your masterpiece. You've put so much into this final product. And I think that's a respect, is to always, like, I will never listen to a Tool album in the middle. I always have to start from the beginning to the end because it's a journey.
Well, Tool's a pretty monstrous concept band.
You're right about that too.
that's like taking Rush 2112 and starting it right in the middle. And,
yeah, you can't
and
do
trying
that.
to understand what it is, because
Yeah.
it's definitely, those albums are start to finish. Our album was it just kind of happened. We thought we had planned, we thought we had a direction, but the music just kind of went wherever it went.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's like we didn't structure, okay, song one, song, you know, it's going to run into this, or it's going to have this in common with that. It was just like, this is just what we feel, let's just put it out. So,
but you can tell, right? Because and I listened to your album, and the part I love about your album that I've listened to it is you can tell the progression through the music. Okay. Like there is a pattern there. I don't even know if you realize it, but the more I listen to it, the more there's a recognizable pattern in the way that you've crafted that album. Okay. And I always was appreciative of that.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like we just threw paint at the wall and put songs on there. But I mean, when we picked them out, we structured them in a way that we thought was a good idea, but it just came out like so many different things at once. It was pretty fun, actually.
Those are the best ones, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because for me, I've grown up on, like, you know, this album is like, it's got this in common through the whole album, or this one subject matter is the whole album, you know, this beat or this sound, and ours just has, I think, just about every sound and every way that our band can play.
and I love the unpredictability of it, of the different counts and the different beats.
Yeah, it was definitely no it all has to be.
Yeah.
It's like, these are cool songs. And the guys that are working on our album, Jimmy Bott and the horn player that helped him on our album, were just as instrumental in creating that as we were writing it.
Oh, that's awesome.
We had acoustic songs and took them to a studio with Jimmy Bott and asked him to be our drummer. And he originally said, well, I don't record and drum at the same time. And then I kind of told him, well, we don't have a drummer, so you're going to have to. And he kind of said, okay. And so we'd record a song, or we'd rehearse a song with him, like 3 songs a day. We'd rehearse them and then play them. And he was so good, it was just like one and done for him. And then we'd come back and he's like, check out what I did to your song. Listen to this. I got horns on your song. And I was like, dude, what? Cool. Like, I didn't know you were going to full-fledged join the band and jump all over this stuff, but I'm not saying no to any of it. You know, he called LaRonda Steele to sing on it for us. He called his buddy and was like, here, just listen to these songs. And his buddy said, check it out, I put horns on these songs. And Jimmy's like, oh, wow. And
that's awesome.
It was really cool. He called in favors for us that we didn't know we were going to need and want. So,
and I love that about the community here. Like, and I don't know if that's something that's rare to Salem or rare to Oregon, but I get a sense that there's more of a community based approach to music here.
Till you go to Memphis.
That's fair.
Everybody's out looking out for each other when it seems like the blues is or the man, I hate sticking us in a box, because, you know, blues is what we love to do, but music is like what we do.
Yeah.
But, you know, you look at, like, Buddy Guy has taken countless young guys on the road with him and give them a platform, and somebody's done that for us, so we got to do it for other people. That's
100%. And we're back.
New location. Check it out.
I appreciate the flexibility.
Of course.
You know, it's interesting when it's interesting how much money studios want to record a podcast. Like, the cheapest I could find was like $300 an hour.
Wow.
And it's like, all I need is an outlet and I could do everything else. Okay. And so I was lucky enough to find this place that allowed me to do this, so, you know, and they treat me good.
I mean, if you're doing good things and trying to spread cool things, what better place than the house of God, I guess. You know?
Yeah.
Spiritual places.
Yeah, and they don't put any conditions on me.
That's good.
So they're like, go ahead and interview anyone. We don't care.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So it's been a blessing, if you will.
That's cool. And music's always been my, I guess, church, if you will, or it's just always been my go-to for everything. So I back to kind of when you were asking about my injury and stuff, high school and all that. Well, I spent like my high school summers from the time I was 13 till I was 21. So after high school even, but I'd go to Shriners Children's Hospital every summer for 2 to 4 weeks for intensive rehab and just keeping my body in check and teaching me how to do things. And so that was Sacramento, California is where they eventually, I went to San Francisco 1 year. They had a very, very old hospital there that they tore down and then built a brand new, beautiful hospital the next year. And we were 4 or 5 of us that had kind of already knew each other were the first experimental spinal cord kids in the spinal cord unit. It was a spinal cord specialist unit and a burn victim specialist unit. So my summers were spent going over what I just went over in school. Because when you're there, they have a regimen. So you go to therapy, you have recreational therapy, but you also have school. So that even in summertime, it doesn't matter. You're going to school. So I was reviewing what I had learned in high school each summer in Shriners. But to tie that in with music, is I would fly down there by myself most of the time and spend 2 weeks by myself, and that was just torture for me. I hated being away from my friends and my family, and so music was always
the escape.
I was like, can you guys get me a CD player? Can somebody get me a CD player? Turn that down. That was always my go-to. I remember the day I was getting discharged for the very last time, or the week I was getting discharged for the very last time. I'm a huge Collective Soul fan.
Yeah.
And they have a song called Reunion.
I love that song.
Oh, man. I played that song every single day that week because I was going home, man. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. So that kept my head in some good places while I was down there. And they would do cool things. Like they took us to a play for the first time, but it was a musical play. So I was like 14 and I'm like, man, those are just gay. I don't want to go to a play. That's just like, I'm using all this, saying all this stuff. I'm 14, have no idea what I'm talking about. And I get there and I'm like, wow,
that's pretty cool.
Is so cool. Like, it's music, it's theatrics, it's everything that I love, Kind of turned my mind away from thinking that wasn't cool anymore.
That's awesome. And I remember, so for me, music has always been my escapism. Yeah. Like, I have certain albums that I will listen to depending on my mood. Because if I'm angry, I'm going to toss some Korn on there. If I'm feeling sad and sorry for myself, I'm going to throw some Sia on there. I'm a very eclectic sort of combination of music that I have a certain song that conveys a much better message than my voice can convey.
My best friend Katie has the most eclectic playlist I've ever seen.
Yeah.
She's just
I love
from one end to the other, and it's all songs that mean something to her.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And they all have a specific kind of meaning and use for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was always live shows. I mean, I love albums, and I'll listen to albums too, but take me to see that band live. I want to experience the live. I want to know, can they do what's on the record, and can they do better? I want to feel what they. I've seen Korn twice. When they used to have Rockfest, KUFO Rockfest. Yeah. I saw Korn twice there. They were pretty cool. They put on a pretty cool show.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I've seen a lot of concerts in my lifetime. My mom was really cool in high school, and so if there was a concert on a Tuesday or Wednesday, she'd take me. But I had to go to school the next day. But
that was the deal.
She'd take me though if I wanted to go. Took me to see the reunion of Black Sabbath.
I'm jealous.
We went and saw Pantera on their own headlining tour. I mean, my mom's little, and it's me and her, and we're at this heavy concert. It's like a Pantera and I don't know if Sepultura was there, but it was like a bunch of bands like that. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. We were watching people dive and do all kinds of.
The pit is something else.
This is awesome. I want to do that.
I'll never forget the weirdest concert I ever been to was it was a Metallica show, but Bryan Adams opened for Metallica.
Wow, that'd be kind of cool.
It was wild because Marilyn Manson was before Bryan Adams.
Oh wow!
And it was in Belgium because I was in the army at the time, and I'll never forget like the mosh pit for Marilyn Manson, and then as soon as he stopped playing, they all disappeared, and then from out of nowhere, a whole bunch of 16 to 22-year-old girls just flooded the stage for Bryan Adams.
Oh my goodness.
And then as soon as he stopped, they all left, and the people from Marilyn Manson came back.
Oh yeah.
It's like a tidal wave. It was so wild. That was the weirdest concert I've ever been to.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty wild mix of
only in Europe, I think.
I think the coolest show that I may have ever seen, besides the reunion of Kiss.
Yeah.
So I saw when Kiss put their makeup back on, which was exactly 1 month after my accident. And there was a therapist at the hospital that came to me and she goes, "If you work really hard, we'll give you free tickets to go see the reunion of Kiss." And my mind was just blown. So I went and saw Kiss and I literally sat there like this the whole time. First time I saw boobs on the big screen, I was just like, dude, these guys have everything they need in life right now.
That's
but
so awesome.
Later in life, I went and saw Hank Williams III. He did his whole country, like acid rock, and then his whole heavy metal. It was like 4.5 hours of just Hank free.
That's a long show.
It was really cool, really cool. But it was the same thing. It was like traditional country, and then all of a sudden like acid rock, and then just the heaviest of heavy dark metal that you could get to. It was really cool.
All out of the same person.
Yeah, and those kind of things for me that made me realize that bring more stuff out of me.
Yeah,
because I feel like I can do any kind of music, really, not just. I feel blues, and we're a really good blues band, but
oh yeah, you are.
We can play a lot of other things too. So
100%. Like and the think that one of the things that I've said before on this podcast, and I'll say it till the day I die, being a musician is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of patience, and a lot of practice to get to the professional level that you all get to. And I don't think a lot of people understand or respect that.
You have to be willing to give up everything.
Yeah, a lot.
So we used to play poker at my house every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. And I had, 10, 12 friends that would come over, and they were my friends. Yeah. They were also, I lived with my parents at this time. I live alone now, but into my early 20s, I still lived with my parents. Mm-hmm. So they'd come over and play poker. Well, eventually I was going to play music. And, well, when do you play music? Friday, Saturday night, Yeah. So it was, they're all coming over to play poker, and I'm sorry, you guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to play music. And that was really kind of a hard thing for them and me, because we just lost touch. Yeah. Not friendship, but we lost the hanging out, and eventually all that fizzled. And now I realize, like, I've given up every single thing to play music. I left my niece's graduation early to go, and I don't have kids. She's my closest kid. Yeah. I left her graduation. I missed every single birthday I think she's ever had, because it always falls on a show day. It is what it is. It is music, and that's, until I can't do it anymore, I'm going to try to do it as hard and as fast as I can. And it's in your bones, Johnny. It's in your bones. It's definitely something I can't ignore. Yeah. You could just tell it's in your bones. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. So do you remember your first gig? No. Okay. No, not even close. Well, maybe. My own gig that I had to have a band for, I remember. Okay. It was me and the guy at the time, Steve Sloan, in Lincoln City. And he came to me and he said, "Hey, I have the full summer booked at this place, and I don't have a bass player and a drummer." And I instantly went, "I know a bass player and drummer. I knew a really good bass player and drummer." Yeah. So I called them, and that was kind of like my first collaboration of, these are our gigs, and we're gonna take on the whole summer. And
What was that like that first time on stage?
I don't remember the first time.
Oh, wow.
I don't. There's never a time that I'm nervous to get on stage or intimidated, maybe when there's a really good musician before us or after us, but that's always motivation. It's never like,
fuel to do better.
I will show you that I can be as good as you if I have to be. And then in the same respect, I want musicians to have that same intimidation of us, because for us, it makes us play better.
Yeah.
I would hope that it does that to every single musician. It's like, just ignite that. Like, oh man, this is awesome. Like, you guys are good. You really intimidated us. Now let's go be the same. And so I don't remember like my first gigs. I remember times of like realization that we were a good band though. Like especially with these guys, with Taylor, Brandon, and when we were with Doug and Michael, especially too, because I mean we're a good band now, but when we were doing our whole Memphis thing, we were really good.
Yeah.
But there was like a couple times we were at the Winter Music Fest in Portland once, and a band called the Thunder Brothers played right before us, and they were just like killing it, on fire. Their harmonies were great, guitar playing was great. The crowd was just like eating them up in front of us, and I'm looking at these guys going, "Oh shit, we're gonna have our work cut out for us to."
Yeah.
And then we got on stage, and it was just like a machine that was ready to go. The whole crowd did the same thing that they did for them, and it was thankful to them, because they had everybody feeling so good and ready. And I mean, we could do no wrong as long as we went up and played. And if we were out of key, out of tune, it would go haywire. But we could go up there and just do no wrong at that point. And that's what I want to do to other bands. Is like, if I play before you, I want that crowd eating out of my hands to where you can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you just go up there and be you. Don't even think about it. You don't have to do anything special at this point.
Because ultimately that helps the music entirely. Like everybody.
If you're not doing this to pass on your knowledge and learn from other people, why are you doing it? And once you think you're so good that you can't learn or you're the best, why are you there anymore? Music is learning, it's conveying, it's feeling, it's connecting to people that can and can't play. I mean, people that can't play are just as important as people that can play, because we need somebody to listen to us.
Yeah.
Jazz masters can learn something from novice musicians just as much as a novice musician can learn from a jazz master. If they have something to say and give. It's not every single musician, but I've come across a lot of people that were not kind in that aspect, where they think that they're better than everybody else.
And that doesn't do anybody any good.
I'll show you that you're not. If you really want to be that way, I'll be the guy that gets on stage and says,
"Yeah, I'll show you a thing or two.
Watch us instead."
And you'll be kind and have a smile and be into it while you're doing it.
There's just no other way to do it, because the people in front of you are all that matter.
Yeah.
Whether it's 5 people or 100 people or 10,000 people, which I'm not sure we've played in front of that many, but we've been in front of a few, and it's awesome. Like, people are there, they spend their money to see you for a reason, and that's should be taken into consideration. Like, go up and play your ass off for them, because they spent money that they actually went and earned to see you play.
And for anybody that hasn't had a chance to see this man in action, you gotta do it. I got it.
My band is pretty good. They allow me to just be free. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
And everybody in your band is an amazing musician.
I would agree.
Everybody in your band is an amazing musician.
Everybody we decide to play with has to be to a certain standard for me, or I don't want them. I mean, even if you're a novice, you got to have like passion at least, and maybe some kind of fear, so I can throw you into the fire and you can experience that. That's my favorite thing to do, is take people that are like, well, what are we going to do? Don't worry about it. Let's just go play. Okay. It's fun. It's super fun.
Because the more often you get a chance to play, the better you become.
Absolutely.
That's all there is. It's just hours and hours.
And not playing in your garage or your basement or your bedroom.
Oh, yeah, there's a huge difference.
You have to go out and play for people if you want to get better.
There's a huge difference. The feeling of the crowd and the feeling of the people that are sort of involved in your music translates on stage. It's a give and take that if you have a good artist, such as yourself, knows how to play on that give and take and knows how to sort of pick your parts and like, no, just right in the break of the music, where to do a certain maneuver or a certain thing or a certain trick. And like
certain look or anything. That's something I've learned a lot recently.
Yeah.
Going through all this stuff we're going through is how to like read a crowd and understand a crowd and connect with them even more. I never like to like take my hat off, and I always usually start with a beanie on, but a lot of times I take it off, and that's because you hear time and time again, well, people want to see you. People want to see you. So at some point you got to give them that, whether it's just for a minute or not. That's part of their connection. And for me, playing music is the ultimate equalizer. There's nobody I'd be afraid to get on stage with, disability or not. It doesn't matter. There's nobody that can out soul me on stage. And I don't mean that in like a competition way, but you put me on stage with Eric Clapton and I'm going to play up to their standards. You put me on stage with you and I'm going to play to your standards or help enhance that somehow.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. It's definitely been my ultimate equalizer. I can make people forget about my wheelchair when I'm on stage.
And not only that, like when you take the time to sort of be, like you were saying, not only be kind, but also to impart that knowledge and let that other person know that that's what you're doing, I can only imagine just how thrilling it is to see somebody that you did that to progress into an amazing musician. Like, I remember when he started, and I remember,
Do you know Christian Pond?
I don't.
The Boondock Boys?
Okay, yeah.
Christian was 13 when I first met him.
Oh, wow.
And he was like going to a jam session playing Sweet Home Alabama. And I was told, hey, there's this really good 13-year-old. And I think maybe I'm 10 years older than him.
Uh-huh.
Maybe not. But so then I found I had to meet him.
Yeah.
And I had to bring him to play because people have done that for me. And man, he's an incredibly gifted guitar player as well. But I've watched his, transition or whatever he's going through, and I like to think that I might have had a little part of inspiring that or whatever. I don't need it, but it's really cool to consider him a friend and see that he's progressing like by leaps and bounds every single day. Yeah, I mean, like when I met Taylor, when I met Brandon, they're already really good musicians. Mm-hmm. It was just, I don't know if this is fair to say or not, but they needed somebody that wasn't afraid to be like, let's just go do.
Yeah.
Let's just go play. Like we can play. Let's just go play.
Yeah.
And play what we feel and what's nice. And when you get like people like that, for me, it's like having a basket full of toys. And I know what Taylor plays best on the bass, or I don't know everything, but I have a good idea of where he's at 90% of the time. And I have a great idea where Brandon's at 90% of the time. And so they're very good at like letting me, God, control is such a terrible word, but I'm a control freak. So it's the only thing I can.
But as the lead singer, control is the key, right? You're the front man of the band.
It's the band. And I believe I know what's best for this band.
Yeah.
And it's no offense to them. And I try to listen to what they say and what they implement. And I'm a hard-headed person, like extremely. I butt heads with a lot of people that can't be free in a band. But with these guys, it's like, there's times where I'm like, Taylor, take a bass solo. He's like, nah. And then he's like, yeah, and Brandon's always right there if I need something too. So it's like, well, he can play, Brandon can play saxophone, he can sing, he can play guitar. Taylor can play guitar, Taylor can play the bass. It's like, we have really good things to choose from. And when you have all that ammunition, it's kind of hard to like figure out what bullet to fire, so to speak. But it's fun.
Because they're all finely tuned, high caliber machines.
Kill at any moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Jimmy Bott is like a world-class drummer, and it's, when you got that behind you, you just have ultimate confidence. And then you get introduced to people that are like world-class horn players that have been around and they're like, man, we really like this band. We really like the way this band is. And when people are telling me that, we have to be doing something.
Yeah.
Something that's worth it.
Right? Oh, 100%.
And that's for me, like, as long as fans, I guess, friends, I don't know what they are, but as long as people want to see us play and people want to play with us, that's where we like to be.
And I've said my Brandon Logan story before on this podcast, but I'm going to repeat it because it's just one of those epic moments from Brandon. Because I'd been to a lot of practices of the Nicky Jones Band.
Okay.
And one time there was a practice and Brandon forgot his guitar. And this is probably an hour away. And so I was like, what do you do? Like, do you have any guitars? And the guy that was there that owned the place is like, I've got that prop guitar up there on the wall. Mm-hmm. It's a piece of crap. No one's been able to make it work. Except for Brandon. He pulls this darn thing on the wall. It's out of tune. It's barely put together. It just sounds like garbage. And 5 minutes later, he's playing Hendrix off the darn thing.
That's cool.
And I'm like, how do you get that?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor and Brandon, Michael, they all very good with instruments. It's just, we've been to a couple shows where, what was it? We forgot the bass. We forgot the bass one time.
Okay.
So we had to just call somebody and they brought him a bass and he played it. And then there was another time that we forgot a guitar. So we had to send somebody to Guitar Center to buy I think it was $100 Telecaster and that time was actually before Brandon. That was another guitar player that we had his name was Russell. And he was, that guy was a freak of nature. As Brandon's like almost calculated and thought out.
Yeah.
Well, this guy was like, I play by color, he told me one time. And I looked at him and I said, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. He goes, yeah, I play by the colors I see when I'm playing guitar. That's how I formulate what I'm going to play. And my mind was just absolutely blown.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I still don't understand what that means to this day, but playing with him, I got to understand in a feeling aspect because you could feel what he was doing, but
I might have an answer to that. So in the neurodivergent realm, there is a concept called we don't think in words.
Okay.
And some people think in patterns and abstractions. Mm-hmm. Some people think in colors. Some people think in just sort of generalized ideas. And that's what they see in their mind. So like for me, for example, because I don't talk in words, I translate everything from words into pattern recognition into my brain, and then I have to process it and then spit out words again. When I was young, I was a very poor communicator. But over the years, I've been able to hone my craft to where I can master words, but I don't think in words.
Okay.
And I never will. Okay. Everything has to have a pattern. Otherwise, it'll break my brain.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Russell was on that same awesome. Wavelength or not, but when he played guitar, it was just magical and it was weird every single time.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool. It wasn't what we are now.
Yeah.
It was completely different, but it was awesome.
It was fun. That's
super
awesome.
Fun. Yeah.
So what's next for you all? Where are you playing next?
Well, we're doing we got a pretty big show at the Grand Theater in March here awesome. In Salem with Ben Rice.
Okay.
Tickets are on sale for that right now. It's his band and our band. That's kind of what I'm putting all my focus towards. We're doing like an acoustic show at the beach, a place called the Beach Crest in Gleneen Beach, Lincoln City.
Okay.
That's on the 18th of this month. We're doing the Muddy Award ceremony in Portland again. We're going to headline that at the end of this month.
I will probably be there for that.
That's going to be a super fun time.
Yeah.
It's Portland's who's who, and that we're kind of, included in that's really cool.
That's awesome.
We've won a couple of Muddy Awards too, so that's really awesome. Cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I want to, I think in July we got a thing that might take us to play for an anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Oh, that would be epic.
That's kind of where, as I get older, I want to go, is like do things that maybe I can go and there's not another person that does what I do in the entire world.
100%.
There's not another quadriplegic that
100%
that can do what I'm doing. There's a lot that can do other things, but so I want to, before my time is up, I want to make my mark as that person.
Yeah.
Whether it's like high schools or hospitals or I guess anniversaries of the disability, whatever it entails, I want to be able to go talk to people for 20 or 30 minutes and then be like, okay, you heard what I said, but it doesn't make sense until you see what we do.
Yes. And so many people, unless they see somebody doing something, the reality is they probably don't believe they can. And so when you have representation for people with disabilities and you bring that voice, like that means so much to so many people. It's very, like, I hate to use the word inspiring because, like, you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, the token disabled person.
Cliche, I guess,
I hate that aspect of it. But when you take a step back and like, that's not what this is.
For me, it's not.
It's not.
No, I'm not trying to be an inspiring disabled person.
Yeah.
I want to be a person that makes you forget that I'm disabled.
100%.
And hopefully I do a good job.
100%.
But yeah, I want people to know that that, you know, I have a highly compromised diaphragm. My breathing can be intensely labored.
Mm-hmm.
My speaking can be, I'm very good at hiding when I need to take a breath and when I need to run out of air. And that's all from being self-conscious. You know, I don't want people to see me struggle, but it's there. I have no use of my hands at all. No use of my fingers. I can put my hands like this far above my head.
Yeah.
You know? So I mean, I want people to see me as a normal person, but now I kind of want people to know, like, there is something different going on. There is something abnormal going on. I was chosen to do this. I am chosen to be this person, and I try to intently honor that as much as I can.
And the disability doesn't define you as a human being.
It better not, because
I
got a lot more to offer.
100%.
I mean, I got a brain, I got a mouth. I mean, there's things that, and Brandon is, I'll speak on his behalf very quickly, but it's his story to tell. But he suffers from cystic fibrosis.
Okay.
Which I didn't know anything about until I met Brandon.
Yeah.
Your friends don't live very long with cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
It can be an extremely debilitating and deadly disease. So knowing what he goes through every single time we get on stage helps me, you know. And it's not only that, like, you know, Taylor helps me too. He has his own things, but he's always like helping me live as much of a non-barrier life as I can, especially with music. You know, that's our connection, is playing music together, all of us. Brandon, Taylor, and I are pretty good being stuck together.
Is it getting easier?
No.
I don't think so. That's what I fear.
It gets harder.
Yeah.
For me, it gets a lot harder. I've been in the wheelchair for almost 30 years. That's
what I mean, like in terms of like the accessibility of the stages, the music. Yeah.
It's 2024 and I haven't been on more than maybe a handful of stages that had a ramp. And those stages with a ramp were for the music equipment, not for me.
Right.
And I don't push that issue ever. I don't want that to be the barrier that stops me from going on a stage, is that there's 20 stairs or 15 stairs. We've taken, I posted a video on TikTok. Maybe it's been 5 years now. Maybe it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
And it got flagged and taken down like immediately because I was riding in the bucket of a tractor to get on stage.
And they took it down?
That was a dangerous act.
What?
It's still not allowed back up today. So those are the kind of things that, like, I want to break. Is people think it's dangerous and unsafe. Why? Because I'm in a wheelchair?
Right.
I don't know. But you can do the milk crate challenge. Break your freaking arm.
Right. You can do the Tide Pod challenge and almost die from eating a Tide Pod.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. The worst thing that's going to happen to me is I'm going to fall out of that tractor and maybe fall on my head and die.
Yeah.
That's like the worst case scenario. I'm already in a wheelchair. It's like,
but the safety on those things is pretty darn good.
I had a crane operator standing behind me, holding me. I had these Brandon and Taylor on stage, waiting for me to get there. I mean, you couldn't be any more safer besides strap me to the bucket, which I'm not a fan of being strapped down to things. So,
but yeah,
it was funny. I fought that. I appealed it. It's still not allowed up today.
I wonder if it would be up on X today.
Yeah, that'd be funny. I thought, this is it, man. I got this cool video of these guys like putting me on stage. Like, this is gonna be inspiring. It's gonna be cool. People are gonna see that like you can.
That would have been freaking awesome.
You can do things unconventional. Like, you don't have to be like, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't get up there because it's. Yeah. It was a semi trailer that we were getting, a flatbed semi trailer. Yeah. So I'm 20 feet in the air or 15 feet in the air anyway. It was fun. I love that stuff. Yeah. I guess social media and the world's not ready for that yet.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
But it takes time.
Yeah, maybe I can help that kind of stuff too. I don't know. I don't know the right people, but maybe I'll meet the right people one day. They're like, dude, let's take you on the road and put you in front of people and have you speak and then have your band play. Because that's what I really want to do.
That would be epic.
I want to know what it's like to play in front of 10,000 people. Really,
that would be epic.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We've done like 3,000. And maybe we felt about 10,000 when we were at the Blues Fest total. Yeah. But as far as like being right in front of me where I can.
Like 10,000 people just staring intently at you, enjoying the music that you produce in front of them.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I think that's when I might consider myself to be like, okay, I did something that I really set out to do.
Yeah. I just want this podcast to pay for itself. That's all I want.
And our album was, speaking of expenses, it was like 10 grand to put on our album.
Whew.
And we funded that all ourselves.
That's a very good point too, because I think a lot of people aren't understanding just how difficult it is to put an album out today. Like, it's expensive.
You can be. I mean, you could do it all at home on a $1,500 MacBook if you really want to. But
yeah, but then you can tell.
I think so, but maybe I don't know. You might be surprised. You know? But for me, it was the experience. I wanted the studio. I wanted Jimmy Bott was huge in who we wanted to work with, and the money wasn't. It was an issue because we didn't have any, but we were fortunate enough that people were like, okay, come and record and then pay me when you can.
That's awesome.
Had faith in us to do that. So.
Yeah. And how'd you get involved with Lightning in a Bottle?
I've known so Timmer is part of was part of the Thunder Brothers band that I told you about earlier that totally kicked our ass, and we were like, this is awesome. Yeah. So he was part of that band, and I've just admired him ever since. And we've become friends. And we did the whole journey to Memphis together, and he's heavily involved with the Cascade Blues Association. And then he started a record label, and he was like, well, how would you like to be on my record label? And I was like, that's cool. And I was like, let's put me on your record label. Yeah. So my band can still be its own entity, but we'll include, it'll be the band. It'll just be the freedom to be me. So that way I can do other things for Lightning in a Bottle without necessarily having to be the band, which sometimes being the, I guess, leader is like, it's just a very tricky situation because you have to do things without your band to get your band noticed.
And there's a lot of give and take there too, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of venues to begin with.
There's a lot less.
Yeah.
Especially after COVID.
Are we starting to see a resurgence?
We never stopped.
Is it coming back?
I don't know. I think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think people are starting to.
Because I'm starting to see the crowd sizes everywhere sort of start to become like they were before.
I don't think it'll ever go back to where it was.
I'm so disappointed to hear that.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm afraid of that too.
Well, but you were playing from 9 to 2 in a bar or a venue, and now it's 7 to 10 is like pretty common. So everything has changed. And how do you just like all this? Okay, we're going to go back to 9 to 2 when people don't really want to stay up to 2 anymore. It doesn't seem like. I don't think it'll ever fully come back the way it was, but there's a good chance for it to change and be better.
Yeah.
For musicians like us, I think we want to focus. At least I want to focus our band on like ticketed shows, theater shows, places where we can actually put on a show instead of just be another band in a bar somewhere.
And have some metrics to go along with it too, right? Know exactly what the numbers are instead of relying on the bar owner to tell you kind of how many people are there.
Does any businessman want to tell you exactly what they've brought in for the day? Probably not.
Probably not, but they should.
Well,
anyway,
you're absolutely right. They should, because we should be able to say, okay, we're not going to ask you for more than is allotted or more than we feel like we're worth.
100%.
But that's not the whole thing with music. We're all competing against each other, and we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
The prices, the pay has been the same. It has not. It doesn't go up. And I'm talking about regional musicians, because that's what we are. We're not a national touring act.
Right. The game is totally different.
Everybody's a regional musician at some point, even the big musicians.
Yeah.
But it's, $100 a man is what's standard, and I'm not complaining, because getting paid to play music is a pretty fortunate thing, but we're not just going out there to play music for fun. We could sit in our living rooms and play music for each other if that's all we were doing.
And $100 a man does not equate to a sustainable living wage. Not even close.
Yeah. And we are, I would like to think our goal is to help people, right?
Yeah.
To like I said, take people away from their day for a few hours, and you'd have to pay a therapist quite a bit of money to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not trying to say that we're on the same realm as a therapist, but why should we be treated like we're just doing something that we should do for fun?
Especially if you break it down to like the hourly rate, right? $100 an hour for 4 hours doesn't give you all of the prep time, all of the hours to begin with, all of the practice time, the setup time. All of that stuff is not included in the price for you to come and put on this amazing show.
Yeah, if you hire a contractor, what are you paying for?
Right.
Their tools, their time that they put into their craft, the materials. I mean, that we should be the same.
Yeah, you're paying for the truck, you're paying for everything.
My harmonicas have went up to about $60 a harp.
What?
And I play 4. So if you're going to be a real harmonica player, which I'm not, you generally want to have like 7 to 12 harmonicas and then some backups, because you're blowing air at a very high rate through a very, very small piece of metal.
Yeah.
But what happens? It bends. Anytime it bends, and so So I probably replace harmonicas about every 6 months. And when you are a guitar player, you probably buy a new guitar every couple of years, but you're putting new strings on
all the time.
Yeah, but those are like $4 to $10 a pack.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is expensive. It is not. If you want to do it right, if you want to be if you want to invest in your craft and get better, then it's expensive.
Right, because you need a certain level of guitar, you just need a certain level of drums, you need a certain level of a bass.
You need one that at least feels good to you.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so many different variations that could feel good for one artist, may not feel good for the next.
Mm-hmm.
And just the difference in sound that two people can have out of the same instrument too.
Then you add in the fact that I'm disabled, where what instruments are made for disabled people?
None.
There's nobody making them.
Yeah.
So that's an experiment in its own.
Have you heard of Fame? So Fame, I just did an interview with somebody from Fame on Friday, I mean. They're a music school for people with disabilities.
Oh, okay.
They've been around for a while.
Here in Oregon?
Yeah, in downtown Portland. And they have like all kinds of programs like tuition assistance and things like that. So if you want to learn music and you have a disability, there's a place for you there.
Oh.
And one of the things that occurred to me in our conversation is you're absolutely right. There's no one in this space of accessible music.
Yeah.
In terms of instruments, in terms of even microphones and setups and all that stuff. They just don't.
And I'm not saying if there should or shouldn't be, because my process has been find whatever I can use.
Yeah.
Don't, maybe tailor it towards myself when I can, but so music is a visual thing, right?
Yeah.
And if you're up there looking like you're disabled, it's, in my opinion, not, it's gonna, I don't know, I'm so like not politically correct, so I don't.
You don't have to worry about that here.
It's just gonna look funny. It's just gonna look, I have an electric wheelchair. I don't want to wheel up in my electric wheelchair and be this enormous wheelchair figure when I'm up there playing music. I want to be in this thing where you can see me. I want to have a normal microphone in front of me that looks like everybody else's. I want to pick up my harmonica and hold it as best as I can, like everybody else. And that's not right or wrong for anybody else. That's just for me. That's it. Try to do what you can first, and then try to seek out assistive devices.
But I keep going back to, so like, when I talked to somebody from Adaptive Sports Northwest, and they are a nonprofit that is dedicated towards sports for people in wheelchairs. Mm-hmm. And one of the advancements this year alone, it took them until this year, was a fully functioning chair for a quadriplegic to play in those kind of sports.
Okay.
It didn't really exist. But now there's a company out there that's starting to make specifically wheelchairs that'll hold up to a full-fledged basketball game. Mm. And with the emergence of that kind of a company, I could see someone else sort of stepping in and filling that gap. I just don't know where that would be.
I don't even know what you would do, especially with musical instruments, because they're so unique to each person.
But until you have a conversation, and until you talk to somebody with a disability and come up with an idea together, right? Because what happens more often than not is you have these companies and they come up with this idea, but they didn't include somebody with a disability in the planning phase. They didn't include somebody with a disability in the design phase. Mm-hmm. And so, what would that be like if you could have a company like Gibson who would actually listen to somebody and come up with an idea on how to do this?
Well, it'd be a $10,000 guitar. That's where the barrier really lies.
Right. But the first one would only be $10,000.
Or they'd figure that they could.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Sell them for $10,000 and
don't get me started on the greed part. That's that part. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not right or wrong. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been, how do I get on stage? How do I look as normal as possible? How do I sound as normal as possible? And how do I be as good as I possibly can be?
Yeah.
And it's never been about how do I adapt?
Yeah.
How do I adapt? Not how do you adapt the stage to me?
Yeah.
How do I adapt to the stage the way it is?
Yeah.
That's just worked for me.
And I can appreciate that.
There's definitely probably easier paths to go.
But when there isn't a path,
you gotta make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you gotta ask your friends to carry you across it.
Right.
And thankfully I have those friends.
Yeah, because sometimes it takes a village.
It does every single day.
Yeah.
In my personal life, in my musician life, I have people that are there for me and have saved me time and time again.
And I'm so thankful that you have that in your life.
Yeah, I am too, because it's I've always had a very good family. My mom and them have always cared a lot for me, but it takes more than just them.
100%. Yeah, this is something that's new to me. So before I came to Kaiser, I didn't really have friends. I didn't really have a support network or a support structure because I didn't really know it was available. Mm-hmm. And when you're sort of stuck and you're always going to be the weird one. You're always going to be the one that says the wrong things. You're always going to well, now that I know I'm autistic, and I have an explanation as to why I'm always the weird one and why I can't pick up on social cues. It gave me the opportunity to do things I didn't think were possible, but I had to adapt because the world isn't going to adapt for me. if I wait for the world to adapt for me, nothing will get done.
The world shouldn't adapt for you.
Yeah.
The world is perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the way it is, and that's very hard. Even for me, this whole learning process for me has taken a turn when I met a lady, Patty, who turns out is the mom of my absolute best friend in the entire world, Katie. So we have a super close relationship, and they've helped me a lot, and have called me out a lot, and have helped me change quite a bit over these last few years.
Yeah.
It helps me realize things, a lot of different things. But you have to be willing and accepting of that kind of stuff too. It's always not easy to do that.
100%. Especially when, like, there are certain things and certain aspects. So, like, I have a sort of similar situation where I met my friend Brooklyn just randomly, and she has the most amazing non-speaking autistic grandchild.
Oh, okay.
And we have become close friends through that sort of connection. And it's awesome to have somebody that I can field things through, because, like, I almost need a mirror or a filter, because it's like I'm learning to be present for the first time in my life.
And I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah. I have been so shut off from the world up until recently.
Me, it's just been blinders, just, not taking the time to look and check yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it's about checking yourself. I think it's just self-improvement.
I think everybody should check themselves and they'd improve.
Oh, 100%. That self-check, like, I do that all the time. I try my best to grow every week. I really do. And I take 3 hours a week just to medicate and just to think about stuff. And just see if I can't do something or change my perspective to make my life better. And it has been amazing, the shift. Just welcoming people. It's like why I started the podcast.
Yeah.
Before this podcast, I wouldn't go up to anyone and have a conversation. Now I get to talk to Johnny fucking Beals. So
that's cool, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's been awesome. And we have been at this for almost an hour and a half.
All right. Well, that's cool.
So let's put a pin in this.
Cool. Yeah, let's do
that. And I'm excited to see your next show.
It's gonna be fun. We're trying to kind of change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
We've kind of been stuck in a really good thing for a while. It's time for us to get uncomfortable.
I love that. Yeah. I'm excited to see what's next.
It's gonna be fun.
Johnny, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.